Today, we're jumping into the story of a leader from the 17th century who started with almost nothing and went on to challenge the most powerful empires of his time. We're talking about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj.
You know, it's a question we all love. How does the little guy win? Well, Shivaji's life is pretty much a masterclass in how it's done. How on earth did one man with just a few resources manage to build a kingdom when he was completely surrounded by superpowers? Let's get into the incredible strategy behind it all.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in an India that's totally dominated by these massive established empires. But right here, Shivaji's mix of military genius, really progressive ideas about government, and this powerful vision for the future, well, it was about to create waves that people still feel today.
All right, so to really get his impact, we're going to look at his fight against these empires, the big vision that was driving him, the brilliant tactics he used to actually win, his incredible skills as a nation builder, and of course the legacy he left for everyone after him.
First things first, let's really appreciate the massive scale of the challenge Shivaji was up against, right from day one.
I mean, we are talking about huge, wealthy empires with gigantic, well-armed armies. You had the Mughals, who controlled most of the subcontinent, and then the Adil Shahi Sultanate, a serious power down in the Deccan region. These guys were the absolute giants of their time.
And just look at this contrast. It's kind of crazy. On one side, you've got these empires with what seems like endless money and manpower, and on the other side, there's Shivaji, starting out with a pretty small group of loyal friends and a couple of forts. Talk about the ultimate David versus Goliath situation.
So what makes someone take on odds that seem impossible? Well, that gets us to the why, the really powerful idea that was the foundation for his entire life's work.
See, this wasn't just a quest for more land. It was about a revolutionary concept, Swarajya, which basically means self-rule. The vision was for a state that was governed by its own people, where their own culture and languages weren't just put up with, but actively promoted. It was about creating a kingdom that was truly free from the grip of these outside empires.
And get this, he made this commitment when he was just 16 years old. He literally took a pledge to make this vision happen. This wasn't some idea he had later in life. It was the engine that powered him from the very beginning.
Okay, so he's got this powerful vision, but he's got limited resources. So how did he pull it off? Well, he had to get creative. He knew he couldn't fight the empires on their terms, so he just rewrote the rules of the game.
He perfected this style of warfare called ganimi kava. You could call this a secret weapon. It was all about using your brain, using strategy, and using the land itself to beat a much bigger enemy. Brute force was out. Being clever was definitely in.
And here's how it worked. Instead of throwing everything into one huge, risky battle, the plan was to wear the enemy down piece by piece. Those rugged hills and thick forests of his homeland, they became his greatest allies. His soldiers would hit the enemy hard and fast, and then, poof, they'd just melt back into the landscape before the enemy knew what hit them.
You can really see the genius of it right here. Surprise attacks, total chaos for the enemy. These hit-and-run tactics meant his smaller army didn't take heavy losses. And by constantly hitting their supply lines, he wasn't just getting resources, he was breaking their logistics and their will to fight. It was brilliant, just absolutely brilliant.
And boy, did it work. This wasn't just some theory. At Pratapgarh, he famously defeated a powerful general through clever tactics and a surprise attack. Then there was his raid on the rich Mughal city of Surat. That showed he could strike deep inside enemy territory. These wins proved, without a doubt, that a great strategy could beat sheer size.
But look, winning battles was really only half of it. What made Shivaji truly special was that he wasn't just conquering lands. He was building a state that people actually believed in. He was so much more than just a great general.
Yeah, he knew that a kingdom needs more than a strong army to survive. So he built this incredibly competent and forward-thinking government from scratch, putting systems in place to make sure there was justice, prosperity, and stability for his people. And the range of his reforms is just amazing. He was one of the very first Indian rulers to recognize the need for a strong navy to protect the coast. He promoted local languages in his own court, he set up a fair tax system for farmers, and brought in reforms to help agriculture. I mean, this was nation-building 101.
So how did he manage all this? He created this council of 8 ministers, called the Ashtapradhan. You can think of it like a modern-day cabinet. Each minister had a specific portfolio: finance, foreign policy, the army. This wasn't a one-man dictatorship. It was a real system of government with checks and balances built right in.
And what's so crucial is that his government was deeply ethical. Even though he was a devout Hindu, he was famous for respecting all religions, and he had people from all different faiths working for him. He was especially known for his respect for women, putting in place strict rules to protect them, and, amazingly for that time, he completely banned the practice of taking women as prisoners of war.
So, what's the end result of all this? Well, it's a legacy that has lasted for centuries and still inspires millions of people today. The high point of his entire struggle came in 1674 when he was officially crowned. By taking the title Chhatrapati, or sovereign king, he was planting a flag. He was making a clear, powerful statement to the world. There is a new, independent power in India playing by its own rules. And his influence since then? It's been massive. The kingdom he started grew into the powerful Maratha Empire. Hundreds of years later, his whole idea of Swarajya became a source of inspiration for India's freedom fighters. Today, he's a huge cultural icon, and his ideas on strategy are still studied by leaders all over the globe.
Just to put his military smarts into perspective, some historians have compared his skills to Napoleon's. I mean, to be put in the same category as one of the most famous generals in all of history, that tells you everything you need to know about how innovative he really was.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought. When you really look at his story, his clear vision, his constant innovation, his focus on ethical government, you have to ask yourself, what can our leaders today learn from a king who lived more than 300 years ago? The answer, I think, is probably a lot more than we realize.